Again, good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining this session. My name is Yogesh, and today we are going to talk about thematic investing or investing in megatrends for 2022. We have done a lot of these sessions back in the past, and every time I get a complete different crowd, a complete new crowd, and that is why month on month we have continued to do sessions related to mega trends, related to thematic investing, because this is the kind of investing which is a bit futuristic. These are some trends which have been emerging for a while now and still have decent aspects in the future to grow. Before we proceed, you can use your chat options if you want to ask any questions. And if you can hear me properly, if you can see my presentation, just send me a yes or a okay, so I can proceed further and ensure that audio, video, everything is clear. Okay, perfect. Okay. So when we talk about mega trends or when we talk about investing or thematic investing, we are talking about investments and disruption, and a lot of disruption comes from technology. You can keep your notepads and pen just in case if you find something interesting, you can write, and later on we can have a one-on-one session where you can discuss your doubts, or if you want to ask any questions, use your chat options to write those questions, and I'll be trying to answer it. Now, John Chambers, Cisco executive chairman, he said that at least 40% of all businesses will die in the next 10 years if they don't figure out how to change their entire company to accommodate new technologies. Disruption is not just about technology. So, a lot of times when I talk about thematic investing, I not only mean that just technological advancements are going to shape up the whole world. Of course, that is one thing, but there are a lot of different themes which have started emerging. Nobody thought. Today, I was reading that by 2023 there will be driverless taxis, right? At some point of time, this would have sounded like sci-fi, but it's happening. So basically, yes, technology is the foundation where innovation happens, but then there are a lot of such areas which have started growing, and somehow we are not looking into those areas from an investor point of view. Why? Because first of all, anything which is new, it kind of attracts you, but also there is a lot of risk. So one thing which I will say it right away, that whatever we are going to discuss over this session, please understand that there is a considerable amount of risk, and anything which I am telling you in terms of areas to look into or promising areas to invest into, please, before you do anything, talk to your risk experts, talk to your consultants, and only then look forward to these, because the risk always prevails. We are living in an environment, everything is so volatile. I'm sure a lot of you must have seen, if just a brief snapshot of how stock markets have been performing. In last 1 month, we have seen stock markets going down. There has been a slight recovery, but it goes down a lot, and then there is a slight recovery. So basically, we cannot say that markets have trended upwards, but yeah, it has been trending down, and a couple of reasons behind it. Inflation globally has been rising, so the central banks have become uh, more tight when it comes to their monetary policies. They're looking forward to increase interest rates. US being one of those countries, the Federal Reserve, they are talking about increasing the interest rates 3 to 4 times in a year, and that has impacted the stock markets, and we have seen stocks coming down. Russia Ukraine tensions have been tagging along, so we have seen gold prices inching higher, we have seen stocks coming down. Basically, the stock markets are really very volatile. So whatever we are going to discuss about, please talk to your risk experts first, talk to your consultants first, and then think about moving ahead. Now, look at this chart. and have a very hard look. This is something. This is statistics from 2008. And in 2008, if I were to say which are the top 10 global companies by market capitalization means so an individual's net worth. When we see, how do we know that an individual is rich or not? We look at their net worth, right? Whether it's high net worth or low net worth. Similarly, if we want to understand how big the company is, we look at its market capitalization. So if you see in 2008, the top 10 global companies by market capitalization, you will see ExxonMobil, you will see PetroChina, General Electric, Gazprom. The top four companies were mostly energy and industrials, right? Most of them were energy products, energy companies. Even if you see on the likes of ICBC, Royal Dutch Shell, Procter and Gamble. So in 2008, it was a completely different era, because over the next 10 years, something like this happened. In 2018, when same comparison was done to see the top 10 companies by market cap, you would see Apple, see Alphabet, see Microsoft, you will see Amazon, you will see Tencent, followed by Alibaba's and Facebook's. And the sector which was topping up the charts back in 2008, in 10 years, it completely changed and tech took over, right? So the point is, every year, some or the other advancements happen, and there are a lot of futuristic areas. Same is happening right now. There are a lot of such futuristic areas which are emerging, and that is what disruption is all about. So what is a disruptive technology? And more than that, when we understand what basically disruption is. So when we are talking about this particular era, this is the era of disruption. And it's a very common law of investing that most rewarding opportunities, when we see around us something which is really rewarding, are also the riskiest ones, right? And disruptive technology or disruption era, this is right now by far the hottest sector and riskiest, right? But the whole point is, the reward of investing in these innovative areas, it has been really enormous. So how many of you, so you can use your chat option, tell me name of one company which makes electric vehicles, whichever name pops up first into your mind. Use your chat options to write it. One company which manufactures electric cars. What is the first name which comes into your mind? Use your chat options, guys. It will become really interesting for a period of time. Okay, I've started getting answers. Everyone, just try to contribute, and you will see the difference when we are doing a webinar. So, okay. And I wouldn't be surprised, and I'm sure you will also not be surprised when I say I have all the answers over here, most of the answers, and a lot of you and most of you have said just one word, and that is Tesla, right? There are other companies also, by the way, but and we are probably going to talk about it. But what I'm trying to say is, if you know Tesla, you would be so interested to know that Tesla was at $90 in 2020. And in early 2021, the same stock was $900. The point is, what I'm trying to make, that one of such hottest sectors, they are the most rewarding, but they are the most riskiest also. Before going to $900 in early 2021, Tesla did fall down to $90 from $400. So as an electric car maker, Tesla stocks nearly fell by 40% from its all-time high this year, right? So it kind of becomes really risky. Now coming back to what disruptive technology, any kind of radical change which comes to an existing industry, that is called disruption. So think about telephone, for example. When there was no other way of communication, telephones came, and the communication industry got disrupted completely, because telephone was an invention. It was a disruptive technology. Everybody would start using it, right? And then what happened? Think about electricity, for example, or think about the first car when it was invented, right? Now, what happened was when the first car came, it could have been very expensive. But then the entire world's productivity, it amplified, the cost of production came down, and then demand increased. And now, take example of Dubai. There are not, we always joke about this when there is too much traffic. There are less people in Dubai and more cars. So it has now completely captured the world. That is what disruption is all about. And today, when we talk about the global economy, it is undergoing one of the most significant technological transformation in the history. Why? Because there are so many innovation platforms. We talk about artificial intelligence, we talk about blockchain, we talk about DNA sequencing, we talk about 3G, 4G, 5G, right? So there is a lot of innovation which is going on right now, and these are few sectors which we should try to understand, which are available for investment, but somehow we don't look at it because of the heightened risk, first of all, and secondly, less knowledge and less information, right? Today, the session is all about exploring these areas, and at no point I am telling you to close all your investments and invest into this, because that would be the most riskiest thing. This is just an idea that while you're investing in your bonds, in your properties, in your stocks, basic blue chip companies, uh, try to explore a separate leg which is called thematic investing, and these could be the areas to start with. uh, think about artificial intelligence, for example, and artificial intelligence includes cloud computing, live streaming, internet of things, basically those companies which are working on reducing the speed, the reducing the traffic, internet traffic, those kind of companies. And artificial intelligence, over a period of time, it has transformed all the sectors in the economy, even the sectors which you thought were not capable of improving any further. Talk about healthcare, talk about financial services, because the growth opportunity in AI space, it can be really, really huge. Uh, until now, so basically, what an artificial intelligence software would be like. Until now, if a human being would program all the software, right? But now, because of machine learning, deep learning, uh, an AI data is used just to write the software, and it is done automatically. So basically, a software will be created, and through deep learning, that software could create a software which would perform the functions it is supposed to. Now, that is something which is really amazing, right? Because so far you were thinking that a human creates a software and then it works. But imagine a software creating a software to perform the extra functions. That is what artificial intelligence is all about. We are also going to have some look on cloud computing related stocks as well, which companies you can look into there. These are very basic names. You can probably write down their names and later on talk to your consultants, talk to your advisors, talk to us, but do a proper research before you invest into any of those. Please continue to ask any questions you have, and I'll try to answer those questions as well while we are in this session. Another thing, think about genomic revolution. Now, this is something which is also called DNA sequencing, and this is a next wave of innovation in healthcare. Now, if we do not understand the importance of healthcare in 2021 or 2022, this is absolutely our fault, because 2020 told us, it taught us that what how much importance healthcare should be given. uh, that since we are talking about healthcare, I would like to take the opportunity on behalf of my team of Century Financial and myself, my family, to thank all of you who are into the healthcare industry, or if you have friends, families, spouses, relatives who are working in healthcare or pharmacies, um, have helped us out in the pandemic. And because you have put your life in danger, we are able to live a good life. So once again, a big word of thanks. If you are one of them, thank you very much. If you know people who are into this industry, if you have relatives, your sons, daughters, a big word of thanks to them. There is no other way I could appreciate this, but absolutely, a a great thing. Now, talking about healthcare further, genomic revolution or DNA sequencing is one of those things which has now brought a wave of innovation. Uh, DNA sequencing. So, what a DNA actually does is it's like a map of your body, right? So, today, if my nose is too long or my hair is too less, basically all of that information is contained in my DNA. If somebody looks at the sequence of my DNA, you can actually be able to identify that what my body is made of, what my body is not, what my body is allergic to, what my body would not accept, and what kind of diseases I could be prone to. So a timely diagnosis can be taken care of, and this is done by fully sequencing the human DNA. Now, the very first DNA sequencing, it was completed in 2003, and it took $3 billion to sequence all the genomes in the human body. And then it would take at least 10 years of computation, and then a DNA sequencing would happen. Now, you fast forward this to today while we are discussing about it, the same sequencing which would take 10 years, now it takes only hours to assemble it. And the same sequencing which costed around $3 billion, it costs around $500 right now. Amazing, right? Because that's what technology does from 2003 to 2022. This is what has happened. The cost has reduced and the process has speeded up because of the emerging technology. So this was something which was very limited to a research lab, right? Something which was very extensive. But now the adoption is massive and it is kind of transforming the healthcare together. So, guys, the technological and these scientific developments which are going on in DNA sequencing or gene editing. So, there is a technology called as CRISPR technology, which you can see on the slide right now. And that is one technology which is used for DNA sequencing and gene editing. And this is, again, when we talk about the benefits of a DNA sequenced body or genomic revolution, as we say, think about if early cancer can be detected through reading of the DNA signals in the blood. This can become a reality within, say, next 5 to 6 years. And with the kind of progress we are seeing right now in DNA sequencing, medical science could also probably have a cure for genetic disorders that never existed before, right? So this is something, again, guys, as I said, this is a very informative session, and we are just talking about these things. Now, you wouldn't be surprised, there are companies which are listed in stock markets which are into this area, right? So today's session is all about exploring these areas, and for you as an individual, that look into these areas if you haven't looked it now, and consider your risk managers before you take any decisions. Next is robotics. Talk about 3D printing or the use of drones or reusable rockets, for example, and robotics. So I was having a discussion over this among a few clients, and we talked about that how even the use of the word robot back in 2004 or 5 or before that, it would just straight away put our mind into sci-fi, right? That robots is something which is it's a very sci-fi thing and it's never going to happen. But because of COVID, because of the pandemic, so I call it a COVID induced progress or a pandemic induced progress, a progress which was forced due to the COVID, where robotics kind of became really, really important. Because now, think about, so a lot of population now is actually aging, and while we look at it, the pandemic, which was a very life threatening thing, it has kind of opened our eyes a lot. The robots are taking over the work environment way earlier than expected. Think about the software, the sensors, right, which currently are, it kind of every machine with a sensor to assess your body temperature. All these sensors and softwares, the advancements are happening within our environment. And think about the aging population now. There is a rise in the aging population, and because they need a lot of health monitoring and they need self treatment, all these elders. And that is where robotics are kind of helping out a lot. So over a period of time, if the cost of production starts going down and the capabilities increase, the robots could transform every business that depends upon the physical process. Now, one very, very important thing, say, um, think about, so I just talked about driverless taxis, right? We always thought that this was something which would never be possible. We would see this in movies, but now I read today that in 2023 Dubai is going to come up with driverless taxis, even if it is not adopted worldwide. But we can't deny that the technology is happening, if not this year, probably in the next 5 years, right? And somehow, once the capabilities they exceed the cost of production, that's where we start accepting this technology, right? So if you see this driverless cars or autonomous ride hailing platforms, as we call it is expected to generate more than $1 trillion in profits by probably next 7-8 years until 2030. So this is something, again, guys, the people who will be making these cars, these technologies, or owning it could enjoy huge profits. And that's why robotics is one area which we should definitely be looking at. And then comes clean power. Now, in clean power, we look at electric vehicles, we look at renewable energy, we look at battery systems. I talked about electric vehicles. All of you replied in unanimously, you replied Tesla, right? Which, of course, so I'll give you one statistics. Take a guess. There are different kinds of metals: gold, silver, copper, right, for investment commodities. Do you know which commodity has performed the best in 2021? Take a guess. Please take a guess. It's a very open forum. Even if you want to Google it, you can, by the way. Which commodity, which metal, I shouldn't say commodity, which metal has performed best in 2021? Take a guess. I just received this information, so I should show this to you on WhatsApp. Just received it right now, so I think. Let me show you. I have it. So right here, guys. A lot of you have started answering. Somebody said gold. Gold actually performed lower in 2021, around 4% down. We have platinum around 10% down. We have silver around 11.5% down. Somebody said copper. So copper went up by 26%, but not the best performing metal. The best performing metal, guys, right here. I don't know whether you can see this here. You see the first green, it is lithium, and it has gone up by 496%. As the demand for electric vehicles boomed, price for battery metals like lithium and cobalt skyrocketed. So lithium has gone up by 496%. Magnesium has went up by 207%, cobalt by 115%, followed by tin, molybdenum, and then neodymium and aluminium, and etc. Copper, lead, steel, they have performed 20%, 14%, 10%. But the highest performing metal has been lithium, which has gone up by 500%. And what does lithium make? Lithium is the source of the electric batteries which are used in electric vehicles, right? So there are a lot of such companies, Tesla, Lucid Motors, BYD, which, when we talk about electric vehicles, we kind of get stuck with Tesla because everybody has heard about Tesla and because it's known. So one thing which we should definitely avoid, I'm not saying avoid Tesla. What I'm saying is what we should definitely avoid is investing after the media or the investing after the hype. So a lot of people talk about Tesla, but when it comes to understanding valuations, when it comes to finding out competitors of Tesla, what are they doing, what is their price, what are their future prospects, we kind of become a bit complacent. So we have to identify those areas as well. Next is blockchain technology. Blockchain technology, everybody has heard about crypto, so they kind of connect crypto with blockchain. But the point is, blockchain as a technology is way big than just thinking about cryptos. Blockchain is being utilized to enhance these smart payment systems. If you have business across countries, so you know the cross border payment is a pain. Not only it's not cost efficient, you lose a lot in the exchange, there's a lot of fees taken by the intermediaries, plus there are delays, right? From one country to another, when you transfer, it doesn't reach immediately. Blockchain uh, is a game changer. Obviously, it needs a lot of refining and needs a lot of regulations, but the technology is utilized to enhance smart payment systems. Uh, or I can say quick global money transfers or secure financial transactions, right? So when we talk about advanced shipping, we talk about transportation, we talk about modernizing government agencies, even in detecting critical illnesses, blockchain can be useful. And as I said, that blockchain could have taken a lot more years, but this COVID induced progress, this is what is has forced so many people, has forced so many companies and corporations to adopt cloud computing, adopt blockchain technology way before it was supposed to be. And that is why it is one of the most important trend at this point of time to study about it. We were talking about AI and robotics. Look at the global AI market, artificial intelligence. What is the revenue expected? 643 million, which was in 2016, is expected to go to 36 billion worldwide by 2025. And the most profitable areas: consumer products, business services, advertising, finance investment, media, entertainment, defense applications. These will be the sectors which will drive significant revenue for artificial intelligence softwares. All right. So, and again, think about every time when you're walking there, and I mean, we all would love to think about a world which doesn't have COVID or any of its variant going on. But the reality is that masks are the truth of the life now. Even the moment we start thinking about, oh, COVID is gone, unfortunately, some of the other friend or friend via friend pops up with a positive case, and we again get scared. So basically, mask is something which is going to be there, and so the technology to assess the human body temperature or face recognitions, image recognitions, all of that will continue to prosper and grow. So basically, the AI market revenue is expected to go way higher, and there are a lot of such companies which are looking into it. So we talked about megatrends. What are these megatrends we talk about? A few I already stated out. And if you segregate it into different areas, we're talking about technology development, we are talking about globalization, we are talking about focus on health, we're talking about network economy with the emergence of 5G. All these are mega trends, and all these are sectors. So talk about clean energy, for example, and look at this: 39% is clean energy is projected to power 39% of US utility capacity by 2030, and that is up from the 13%. Now, one thing which you should know: most of the world's current energy is produced from fossil fuels that emits greenhouse gas emissions, global warming, and definitely we know that this is something which has existed. Clean energy can definitely help in this, and over a period of time, renewables are expected to overtake coal, become the largest source of electricity generation, and this will help dramatically to reduce the greenhouse gas emissions. Now, the popular question is that it's not like climate change has not existed before, but what has been done, and is it something which is very expensive? So you would be surprised to know that at this point of time, renewables, like if you look at the global economy at this moment, it is rapidly working on switching power sources because climate change concerns are increasing. We have a US government which is completely blue. The president is a Democrat, Senate, Parliament, everything, and Democrats have always favored renewables over fossils. So, due to climate change concerns, the economy is rapidly working on the switching power concerns. World is moving away from carbon-based fossil fuels to trying to identify more and more alternative energy sources, right? And this whole decarbonization, what we say, of the global economy, this will need more than $100 trillion of investment over the next 3 decades. What I'm trying to tell you guys that this entire decarbonization, it will need trillions and trillions of dollars over the next 30, 40 years of investment by companies, by governments, and renewable energy will play a crucial role in this entire transition, right? Now, when we talk about renewables, we are talking about sources from like wind energy, solar energy, we are talking about hydroelectric, right? Currently, if you see the supply, just a quarter of the electricity is generated by the power sector. And this particular industry, it has been growing at a very faster pace now. The generating capacity, electricity generating capacity has at a roughly 8% annual rate over last 10 years. But because of the increasing climate change concerns, this speed has now increased, right? Because of climate change, a lot of companies now are forced to focus on how they can play their part to decarbonize this. So there are a lot of companies who are already signing power purchase agreements with the electric utility companies, electricity generators, just to specifically buy the power which is produced from renewable sources. There are a lot of governments which are also working, accelerating the global decarbonization, right? US Senate, this is the most important thing which you should know. US Senate in 2021, they passed $1.2 trillion infrastructure package that includes funding to accelerate clean energy investments. Now, this is just a very small portion of what we just talked about. There are a lot of such companies talk about Fast Solar, Next Era Energy, Solar Edge, Cleanway. These kind of companies are now getting more and more focused as good areas of investment also, right? So clean energy is something which you can definitely look at. Before we move on to cloud computing, I'll just give you a few names. If you want, you can write it down, do your own research also. Brookfield Renewable is one of those companies. It's a global leader in renewable energy, one of the world's largest producers of hydroelectric power. If you see 60% of its portfolio in 2021, it was hydroelectric power in Brookfield Renewable. So it's a growing wind and solar energy company, and they expertise in energy storage also. And the power purchase agreements which I was talking about, this particular company, it sells bulk of these kind of power under the long-term power purchasing agreement. It's a very steady cash flow. They have great track record. Annualized return has been around 20%. So Brookfield Renewable is one company which you can probably look at, do more research on, and see that how it can work. A lot of growth expected. We're talking about 20% annual growth until the next 3 years, at least further. Their dividend is also something which is really good because currently I think the dividend is around 5 to 6%. And what we need in the current rate hike environment. So a lot of people, they move away from tech companies during the rate hike. They start investing to these value sectors, especially the companies which are giving good dividends to you. Brookfield is one of those companies, right? So when we are looking at such companies, Brookfield is one. Brookfield, you can look at Clearway Energy. Again, it's one of the largest owners of renewables in US. If you see wind and solar energy portfolio, again, they are very highly efficient. Natural gas power facilities are also there. And Clear Energy also, the Clearway Energy, it also sells the power through PPA agreements, which I just talked about. Again, a steady cash flow, right? So they have done a really good job creating a value for their shareholders. Total annual returns had been around 10% since the inception of the company. So again, this returns are expected to grow, but basically the point I'm trying to make is just keep these names in your mind. Think about companies like First Solar also, which manufactures these thin solar panels, right? And again, when we talk about solar energy or solar panels, uh, as of now, there is a lot of demand for solar panels. It has kind of accelerated, and the capacity is expected to get doubled by 2025. So look at companies like First Solar, look at companies like Next Era Energy also. It's one of the world's largest producer of wind and solar energy, right? And same thing, they sell power through these power purchase agreements. Again, a steady cash flow around, it has produced roughly 700% total return over the past 10 years. So guys, this is, again, as I say, these are some companies which you can look at. Solar Edge Technologies is one of those companies which you can look at. So what happens is when we start looking at these areas, when we start looking at these companies, we start also looking at uh, different avenues of investment. So we start finding some sense in companies which are not basically the common blue chips, right? Or the ones which are not in the media. Sometimes we miss the names of such companies because it's just not there. I mean, it's not in the media, nobody's talking about it, right? So that is something which you can always look at. uh, Somebody just talked about sun power as whether a company to invest into. Recently the stock came down around 14 to 15%. Last month we saw a decline of 14 to 15%. But then, that being said, again, we are looking at these companies from a very futuristic point of view, right? So every time they take a dip, because it was falling really sharply on Friday also, because they talked about, the company itself said that it is expecting to record some charges related to a cracking issue on some third party equipment. But then, that being said, the stock has already come down by 16%. It's around $15 right now. And if you're looking at from the next, maybe from the immediate point of view, be slightly away. But if you're looking forward for the next 4 or 5 years, then these kind of companies can definitely, because at some point of time, these kind of cost, it gets recovered from their suppliers, right? A revenue which has fallen down now probably starts getting higher. Today itself is, I'm not sure whether the earnings have declared yet, because today is the quarterly earnings. I'm not sure if somebody asked the question, if you can check if the earnings have been declared today or it is after hours, because if the earnings come better than the previous quarter, then stock might go for a bounce, but just check the earnings first. Now, next sector, we talked about cloud computing a bit. With cloud computing, again, so cloud computing during the COVID time, we understood how many organizations, a lot of companies, they actually start investing into cloud computing and started buying softwares because of the whole remote work from home transition. It has been so essential in the digital transformation. It has kind of revolutionized, right, the way we work, the way we allow teams to access data wherever they are, whenever they want, right? So a lot of businesses are actually migrating their workloads to the cloud, and the whole revenue growth to cloud technology, data storage, it is expected to again increase. So this is one fact which you can see right now. Worldwide cloud spending is expected to approach $400 billion in 2022. And then there are a lot of such stocks, a lot of companies, and you probably have heard these names, because cloud computing, it's not a new concept. In 2010, cloud computing, it kind of boomed. Uh, but the next gen IT industry in the coming next years, it's going to be even further better, because a lot of companies, as I said, now are migrating their operations to cloud. Whether you talk about digital data, you talk about storage, even look at your Apple iPhone. If you have too many pictures, the data will be just stored on cloud, right? So just to begin with, look at few names from cloud. Think about companies like Salesforce, for example. Salesforce, they acquired Snowflake, and Salesforce is a very, very strong company at this moment. They have done a takeover for Snowflake also, and even I think Slack technology was one thing. Slack technology also was acquired by Salesforce, and this is what actually Salesforce doing, right? It's kind of investing in those small stakes in companies like Snowflake, companies like probably Slack technologies, and it's becoming more and more stronger. Think about Monday.com. Of lately they acquired a stake. I'm not sure how many of you know about Monday.com. Monday.com is just like Slack technologies, and Monday.com is coming up with an IPO, and Salesforce has put some stake into acquired some stake into that also. So basically the point is they are trying to invest and expand and acquire into all those small companies which are very crucial for customer relationship management and for team management also. Can you work right now without Microsoft Teams or Zoom? No. Similarly, companies like Monday.com, they increase the efficiency of the employees, and they can actually work together on projects wherever they are from whenever they want to. So Salesforce is one thing. Adobe has become the master of the creativity. All these softwares which they have been like, Adobe's user growth has also increased a lot. Uh, Later in 2020, when we saw it purchased Workfront to add workflow project management solutions, they also added that. So basically, Adobe has already took over video editing collaboration software from Frame as well. So Adobe is one thing. Zoom you should look at. Viva Systems you should look at. So these kind of companies are related to cloud computing, something which you can check these companies as well. Then we talked about electric vehicles and future transportation. The global EV sales grow 10 times as the current what you see, 10 times by 2030. This is something really, really important, guys, because as I say, we are not talking about investment that you invest today, take it out tomorrow. I'm talking about futuristic point of view. So these are some areas which you can probably look at. And when we talk about EV, it has gained a lot of traction. Uh, like now, earlier Tesla cars were just fashionable, right? Now it's a very sustainable form of very sustainable option, lower carbon footprint, and a lot of these cars are cheaper. So guys, look at companies like Lucid Motors, a stock price around $30-$35. Look at companies like BYD, like Build Your Dreams, those kind of companies. They're into EV space also. And when I say electric vehicles, I just not mean only look at those companies which are manufacturing cars. When electric vehicles batteries, when their life expires, those batteries are recycled. There are companies for that which recycle these electric batteries. So just look at that. Think about those companies which are manufacturing or creating infrastructure for electric vehicle charging stations. Look at those companies also. Overall, you will start looking at how one specific sector, it kind of provides businesses to so many smaller sectors also. Correct? So look into all these companies. Don't just look at one company, Tesla, because it's in the news. Look at into Lucid Motors. Look into other companies which are related to electric vehicle batteries, recycling of batteries, packaging of batteries, all of that. So there was a time when Apple stock was too expensive at one point, and I was talking to my brother, and he said that it's too expensive, but I want to invest into Apple. So I said, okay, what would you do? He said, if I cannot invest in Apple right now, I can invest into a company which is manufacturing Gorilla Glass for iPhones, right? Today, if iPhones and Apple continues to prosper, iPhone sales continue to go higher. So the companies which are providing parts to the iPhone will also prosper. So there are one business gives life to many businesses. So we should be very open to eliminate the noise, but also look at those smaller companies as well. Then digital health, something which we were talking about. Digital health is remote medical consultation. And that is, again, guys, remote medical consultation. If in pandemic we understood why this is important, it is also called telemedicine, digital health, and it is aimed at improving the quality and access to healthcare. Patients can receive specialized care wherever they are, whenever they want to. And this market is expected to rise at a very high pace. And as I say, with COVID, a lot of this progress has already happened. And we are expecting digitally connected healthcare market is expected to grow 160% between 2020 to 2025. So basically, there are a lot of companies. There are companies like Teladoc. There are a lot of companies which are involved into digital health or remote medical consultation. So start looking at those companies as well, right? How do you invest into these areas? I'm talking. So I just told you about individual companies you can look into, but the reality is, okay, sometimes individual companies like Amazons and Alphabets probably are good enough to invest, right, as an individual, because such high market value companies. But when you look at a certain sector, tell me, how much of you, sorry, how many would you invest, or how many of you would invest uh, into SpaceX IPO? It's a very important thing because we are working on bringing the SpaceX IPO also. How many of you would invest into a SpaceX IPO? If you don't know about what SpaceX is, I'm sure Google it right away and you would know. It's Elon Musk's company, and they just sent their rocket to Mars, orbited, came back, and Elon Musk has found this capability to reuse the rockets and all of that. So, looking at that, Virgin Galactic, Richard Branson also touched the space nearly. Jeff Bezos is doing it. How many of you would invest into SpaceX as an individual company? I'm actually not surprised. A lot of you have said no, which is, and it doesn't surprise me, because the whole point is, why SpaceX, or why would I invest? Now, that was one company. Now, I will rephrase my question. How many of you would invest into space exploration as a whole area? Not just SpaceX as a company, but space exploration as an area. Space exploration means even those companies which are providing rockets to SpaceX, or working on some sort of technology to provide it to the rockets, even that comes in space exploration. All right. Now, see, a lot of people change their answers. A lot of you still saying no, which is okay. It's just a perception, not that SpaceX needs to be invested. All I'm trying to tell you is, when we look at the whole area, a whole industry, sometimes we want to invest into that industry, but not that specific company, right? This is the way to deal with these futuristic themes, because we don't know how successful they're going to be. We have the expectation, we have the numbers, but then at the end of the day, nobody can guarantee their success, right? So today, if I'm talking about DNA sequencing, if it doesn't work in the future and you invest into only one specific company or any of those specific companies, what if that company doesn't have the potential in the future to be patient about till this technology grows? So the best way to invest into the themes is always by investing into a fund or investing into a basket. Basket means, so these are some ETFs which are available. So fund is what? Fund is like a basket where all these companies which are around that theme are put into it. So a cybersecurity basket will have companies, different companies, which have the same theme, cybersecurity solutions, but some companies specialize in identity thefts, some companies specialize in malwares, ransomwares, and providing solutions to those kind of threats, right? So similarly, there are some basket themes which are available. So if I talk about automation and robotics basket, so if you're not comfortable investing into one individual stock, you can look into this whole basket, which focuses on a bunch of companies. So probably AI and robotics will have a combined basket where different companies will be into that basket. This is one of the, I'm not saying, so at no point I should sound that all of these investments are risk free, because they are not. More than that, they are high risk investments, because these are areas which have started emerging now, expected to increase in the future. So that means the risk and the reward both is too high. And that is the best thing about what you need to do, is not to invest into one individual company. So when I say driverless cars, don't just pick one company and invest because you feel driverless cars. You invest into a basket of driverless cars where these are different companies. So if one company probably goes bankrupt or goes out of business, it does not affect the whole basket. Similarly, there are baskets related to mobile payments. Mobile payments, MasterCard, Visa, PayPal, Square Payment, these kind of companies clubbed in one basket. Renewable energy basket. So there will be different Next Era Energy, First Solar, all of these companies combined together in one basket. So that is, you can invest in individual shares, but I would highly advise not to focus on individual shares when you come into these kind of sectors, right? When it's your normal blue chip companies, JP Morgans and Bank of America, you can pick individual stocks. But when these kind of crucial sectors, futuristic sectors come, would always suggest a ETF, like a fund or a share basket, which is going to provide you this access, right? Before I finish this, something different from the topic. This is for the clients. We have been sharing with them a ladder portfolio looking at the current market scenario. And you can take picture of that portfolio. If you talk to your relationship managers, they will send it to you also. I just wanted to show you this. Just give me 1 second and I will open it on my system. It's called ladder portfolio because it has investments in phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, like that. Okay. So I'm just going to share my screen. Let me know once you're able to see this. Okay, I hope everybody can see this. So the whole part about ladder portfolio is that the idea is to invest into 3 phases. Phase 1, so if you have say $100,000, you invest 40% of that amount first. Later on, 35% of that amount, and later on, 25% of the amount, because as we see, markets are falling, go down, then bounce back. So the phase 2 and phase 3 investment should happen at proper support levels, which obviously consultants and risk experts, when you talk to them, your fund managers, they tell you, right? So because stock markets have come down a lot, phase 1 should happen now, but phase 2 and 3 should happen at relevant support levels. Now, this is a snapshot of the portfolio, right? From an aggressive stand, from a moderate stand, from a conservative stand, right? And then there are indices involved. So there is a hypothetical investment of $500,000. But as of now, if you are an aggressive investor, which means you are willing to take chances, take risk, then there is an aggressive portfolio for you, which has companies like Adobe, Nvidia, Estee Lauder, Salesforce, Amazon, Airbnb, and Boeing. But look at the investment style. Phase 1, you invest 40% of your amount, the amount which you want to invest, 40% of that into these companies. Now, when I say 40% phase 1, so with 40%, you put 30% into aggressive, 35% into moderate. Moderate companies are JP Morgan, Bank of America, Starbucks, Walt Disney, and then few indices, and then 35% into conservative, like Procter & Gamble, CVS Health, Coca-Cola, Walmart, Verizon. So like this, how you should allocate, and why this is important at the current point, this portfolio has companies like JP Morgan, Bank of America, which in a high interest rate environment can get benefited. It has companies like Starbucks, Walt Disney, and ExxonMobil, which have good dividends. Starbucks and ExxonMobil have good dividends, so you can look into that. From a conservative approach, Coca-Cola, good dividends, P&G, good dividends, CVS, Health Corp, Walmart, Verizon, these are good dividend giving companies. So in a high rate environment, you not only deviate away from tech, but you also invest into dividend yielding companies. Going on the aggressive bit, we have taken some exposure to the tech, but to the companies like Adobe, companies like Amazon, companies like, for example, Nvidia, right, which have fallen down from their high levels. Salesforce, again, as I said, from a futuristic point of view, if you're looking at companies related to cloud computing, this is one of those strong companies. So what we have done in this portfolio is given you an exposure to all different sectors and diversified it. This is not the part of the thematic investing, but this is something which we have been discussing looking at the current market scenario. There's a question right here that how can we access these portfolios? Please just talk to the person who connected you to this webinar, and I'm sure you talk to them about the ladder portfolio. Remember the word ladder portfolio. You can take a picture of this, but please, as I said, talk to your risk experts first. Something which is less riskier for me probably would be high risk for you, or something which is high risk for me may be low risk for you, or conservative risk for you. So this was just a session to give the information about what's going on, what is the futuristic part, what is disruption era, what are these stocks which you can look into. Bond portfolio, ladder portfolio is all about how to manage the current market scenario, because the stocks have been falling down every day, and with different phases of investments in from aggressive to conservative sectors, you can also look into these kind of companies which are giving you dividend also, low volatile also. Some of them are futuristic as well, and then a few of them are indices. It can always be tweaked, it can always be composed as per your understanding, as per your requirement, and that's why you need to talk to the experts, give them your investment objectives, give them your risk appetites, and only then look into it. How often do you do these sessions? So normally we do these sessions every week with a different topic. Next session will be on 23rd, I think 23rd or probably 26th. It will be about the impact of rate hike on stocks and on other asset classes. So that is also something which is really good, really important. You can look into that. And till then, if you have liked this session, please go on Century Google reviews and please share your feedback. We do these sessions free of cost, and we want to continue doing these sessions week on week to spread more and more awareness about what's going on in the market. So once again, thank you so much, guys. Thank you so much for joining the session, sitting with me for 1 hour and understanding this. We'll be meeting you next week again with a different topic. And if you have any doubts till then, I'm available for a one-on-one session. Talk to your relationship managers and they will guide you more towards it. Any kind of information is free of cost here at Century. So do not even think about that how much I have to pay for it. You don't have to pay a single penny for it. These are very informative sessions. So if you want to understand more, just reach us out and we'll definitely be able to assist you on it. So once again, guys, my name is Yogesh. Thank you so much. You have a good night, and we'll meet soon in a different session.